Okay guys, in this video number 7 out of 10, we are going to be updating the user's name or the user's picture. You will see why I mean or what I mean with the or, because since this is going to be a dynamic application, sometimes we may update only the name and sometimes we may update only the picture. So looking at what we have so far, please remember to subscribe, notifications, and like the video. We are in this part here, actually, that one there, video number 7. So far we have the database that has some data, and we have done the update user, just a little bit of it. That was the setup. I have been thinking about it, and initially this was a good idea to have the update user. But if you remember that in video 1, I explained that this is going to be a dynamic update, meaning that the name or the image can be updated. So I'm going to change a little bit the API now, and I'm not going to call this just create update user, but I'm going to be more specific. I'm going to rename it, and we're going to call it update user name. So we will only update the name, and we will create a new route in which we will update the user's picture. So let's create a new file. Let's call it update user picture.php. So same for both of them, except the validation and the idea of being a name or an image that we will control here. When we have to update a name, the first thing we need to do is we need to validate the name. So I'm going to go to one of the videos in which we actually created a user, and over here we had the create user, and this file had the validation for the user. So let's check one file at a time. This one here has the content type. This one also has the content type. The create user has the validation for the name. So I will just take this and then I will paste it. Let me just delete the whole thing like so. So we start from fresh. The create user actually validates the picture. We are not going to validate the picture in this update user name. So we will skip this. We will skip all that for the next route in which we update the image of the user. This we will skip. I will copy that soon. Then we're going to require the database connection. Yes, we need to connect to the database. So when we update a user, we validate it. If all the validation is fine, we're going to connect to the database. And we have to do a try catch command. So let's copy this, paste it there. And we also need the function that allows us to send the error messages to the API. So I have to make a few changes here. Once we are connected to the database, we're going to create a SQL command, but we're not going to insert. Actually, we're going to update. So for now, I just delete the command. I will get the name via a post. HTTP request, which it is fine. The name will be in the name placeholder. We do not need the picture. We are going to execute the command. When we update, we are not going to get a last ID anymore. So we're going to delete that. We don't need it. And we are not going to move this to another folder. We don't need anything to do with the image, nothing to do with the image. So this will kind of be it. In the previous video, I forgot to exit. It doesn't really affect anything because that exit is not really needed, but I added here now. All right, let's go to the database in PHPMyAdmin and let's learn how to do an update command. Let me move to PHPMyAdmin here. Let's create a SQL command in which we're going to update. We're going to update users. We're going to set the name because that's what we're interested in. The name will be set to a new value. So the value will be, in this case, I will just do some X's. We're not going to update the picture or anything else. So this will be the command where the ID equals, let's do a 1. I don't think I have a user 1, but that will be fine. So we can see what happens there. When we run this command, we're going to update the table users. We're going to set the name to be this X's where the ID equals 1. I execute the command. It actually says that the user has been updated. Let me copy this. And here is something that you need to look at. The user has been updated. No, sorry guys, that went out somewhere else. Let me just agree, and I will have to close that. All right. The command was run correctly, but you can see here that 0 rows were affected. That means that the query is actually valid, but it could not find any user with ID of 1. So if we go to browse, we can see that we don't have any user with the ID of 1. I'm going to go to the SQL command again, but remember now that I'm going to play with ID number 5. I'm going to get autosave queries, and then I will point to ID number 5. We run it. Now we can see that the command executed successfully and 1 row was actually affected. Let's browse the data. We can see that the name has been changed to the letter XXX. All right, this command is valid. So now we go to VS Code and we paste the command in there. Update user, say name. Now this name is going to be pointing to the placeholder call name, where the ID equals the placeholder ID. When we do an update command from the user interface, the user interface will actually send via AJAX or via fetch command the ID of the user that we're trying to update, and it will also send the name that we want to set in the user's name or as the user's name. So we need 2 placeholders, one for the name and one for the ID. So I will duplicate that line and I will follow the same order as I have up here. The name is first and then the ID. This doesn't really matter what I do here, but I want to have, let's say, some kind of standard for it. So the name is going to be the name and the ID is going to be the ID. And obviously I can flip these 2 lines around like so. It wouldn't affect anything. Then I will execute the command and we need to check if some rows were affected. And this is the part where we need to actually count the rows. So we say if no rows were affected. So we say if not, query, row count that we have seen before. Let's see if I have auto-completion here. No, let me just type it. Row count, that's a function. We say if there are no count in the rows, that means that no rows were affected. I'm going to send an error back to the API. And there we will just say that we don't have that user not found. And we're going to pass the line number there. This will automatically exit the application. And if something was successfully done, we will just say that the status is 1, the message will be user updated, and we don't need to pass any data about the user ID or the username back to the API. So let me save this, and we're going to test it in Postman. Let's create the route for Postman. So over here I had the route called update user. I'm going to edit this. It's no longer called update user only. This will be update user name, very specific. It is going to be, let me just save it. It is going to be a post because I will pass the name, I will pass the image eventually. So over here I will point to localhost and we are going to go to the backend and we're going to point to the update user name.php. Let's start with that one. I send the data, it says that the name is missing. So I go to the body of the application, form data, that will be the exact same form that you will have in the front end. We're going to pass the name and the name will be, let's do some X's again. If I send this, it says here the name has to be 5 characters max. We check it. That's the five characters here. But if you pay attention to this ID, I also need to pass the ID so the application knows which user I want to update. This could be passed in 2 ways. I could pass the ID here and I will say ID equals, let's say 5 or 6. and then this is the ID that I want to update. Or you could also just pass it here, the ID, and over here you could pass 5 or 6. At the moment, I don't really know which solution I would like to use. Maybe we should just go for the ID being passed over here. So I mix a get, that will be the parameters, the arguments, the variables being passed in the address bar, and I mix that with a post request, which I have from data. So that's just for learning purposes, I'm going to mix them. So the ID 6 and the name will be access. So when we pass the ID here, we need to validate it. We need to validate the ID because at some point somebody can pass an ID that's actually invalid. So let me think about it, how we can actually do the check. We can just check that the ID is a digit. If not, we will just send an error message. Let's do that. So if the ID is going to be passed via a get, so if you look here, that's the get. So we say if not is set, same as before, we're going to fetch, we're going to take the ID variable, and if it's not set, we're going to send an error message saying ID missing, and then the line. So that will be it for the ID for now, and we also need to check if the ID is a digit. So we're going to say if no ctype digit, again this variable, the getID variable. If it's not a digit, we are going to send an error message to the user saying that the ID must be a digit and the line number. Let's do a test. Let's go to Postman, and I'm not going to pass the ID. I will just leave it like so. The name max 5 characters. All right, let's do just 2. The ID is missing. All right, let's pass a variable ID 1. And then we have here the undefined index ID in line number 20. Good. Let's go to line number 20 over here, and over here I was using post, but I decided to pass the ID via a get. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to retest it, but just before I test it, let me make another error in purpose. I will do an A1. The ID must be a digit. I will do an 1A. So this is just testing that the ID is just a digit. If I do 1.1, it should also fail. Correct. So I'm going to pass, if we look at the database, let's transform number 5 back to AA instead of the X's. So I will say that the ID equals 5 and the name will be AA. We run this, we get the message that the user has been updated. Let's check it. We have AA. So that was for the ID, that's the route to that was for the name. That's the route to update the name. Let's continue in the same video, and we are going to actually create a new route in which we update the user picture, that one there, this one. So I will close the update username, and I will need to copy a few things from the create user. I'm going to copy the whole thing, select all of it, copy all these, and I'm going to paste it inside the update user picture. Now it's pasted here. Let's start from the beginning. We do need this. This is only for the picture and the picture only. So we're not going to validate the name. We need to validate the picture. Yes, we need to pass an image here, or else the picture will be missing. This has been explained before in video actually number 6. We get extension of the image. We check the allowed extensions again. We need to do this because we need to validate the image. We need to validate the size of the image. That's also fine. We need to create a new unique image name for it. Of course, yes, something updated. And we are going to connect to the database, and we need to make a change here. Let's open the update username. So I'm going to have these 2 files here. This command was working fine, so I copy it, from the username and I paste it in the picture. You know, guys, let's do this. The try catch, I will just copy this from the update username file, copy it, and then I'm going to replace it in the user picture file, in the update user picture, and paste it. Let's close this. So this is the same thing. I'm going to update users, but I will not set the name anymore. If we look at the database, the column name is called picture name. I would say picture name is the picture name that I will pass actually here. Let's call it picture name also. Where the ID is the ID that I pass via a get. Let's get here and we say that we want to bind the picture name with the post, actually the picture name that we pass via post. So here we have to think about the image, because the image is a little bit more complicated. The picture name is actually this unique name that we created in the previous video. I just copy and pasted. So this will be the unique image name. And that's the one that I want to save in the database. Once I have the picture name hooked to the unique image name, the ID is hooked to the ID that I get via the address bar. I will execute. We will count. This will say user not found if the ID is not found. And if everything has been done correctly, we say that the user has been updated. Actually, I could expand this message a little bit and say user picture updated. So if I do this here in the user picture file, I could go to the username file and then I could say user name updated. All right. So let's test it. Let's go to Postman and now we're going to point to the route called update user picture. I will pass a picture with ID 1, the user with ID 1. This user doesn't exist and also the picture is missing. I should not have done this, guys. Let me just undo. Update username. I save this route, the username route, and I'm going to create a new route. First, I copy this link and I will create a new request here, a new request. Update user image, or you can call it picture. It doesn't really matter. So the update user picture is a post. I will close the other one. We don't need it. And I will paste the copy URL and then I will say update user picture with ID 5. Run it. Picture is missing. That is correct because I have the ID inside the params, but if you look at the body from data, I don't have the picture. I will say that that's going to be a file. We are going to call it, let me check VS Code. We actually get the picture from the variable called picture, that's the same. I will say picture, and then I will select the file to be, for now we just take a female, it doesn't matter if you take a male or female, and then I'm going to send the data. The user picture has been updated. All right, so we need to validate this. First, save this request so we can test it later again. And we're going to go to the database and we're going to browse. Let's concentrate on this image here. It ends with 478. So we're going to update. It doesn't matter if you send the same image, it should change the name. We check it again. And now we change to 171. So this is how we update actually an image. Let me make a mistake in the ID. So picture has been updated. You see, I did not validate ID. That was not good because even though it says validated, updated, this should not be allowed. User not found. 5T. Well, it's updated because PHP will just take the 5 and the T and it will say, okay, I see that you want this to be an ID. Let's see if this gets converted just to number 5. Let's check it. 5T. We have a C9. We do again the 5T. And then we get this 9F. So we have to validate the ID. Let's go to VS Code and let's validate it. Since I already have that in the username, update username, I will just copy these lines and then I will paste them right after I validate, or just before I validate the picture, right in there. Let's test Postman again. ID must be a digit. ID must be a digit. So the image has been updated successfully via a post request. I save it and I can see something here inside the pictures. If I update a new image, let's see what happens there. I'm not actually saving it. You can see that I have 2 images. And if I update one, let's look at this. It ends in 7 and this one ends in 9. Hopefully it doesn't get the same 7 or 9. And then you can see here that the image has not been saved. So you have to consider that once you update an image, the image is actually saved in the database as we have it here. It's updated, but the issue is that we never save the image back to the pictures folder. And that's what we need to do now. So to do that, we actually need to move it. If you recall the moving part from the previous video, I will do that. Once the row count has passed, we're going to move it. So we're going to say move uploaded file. This takes 2 arguments. So we're going to move the files picture. Let me just rewrite it, taking this from there. So this is the variable that actually contains the image. I know, since I explained that in the previous video, that we have a temp name and we want to move it to the final directory, to the final destination. But what is that destination? Well, let's take it from the create user file. So over here we have the destination folder. I copy these 2 lines and we paste them right in there. So we have the destination directory. We also have the final path. The final path uses the destination folder, which is here, and it also has the unique picture name, which I don't have. Do I? Yes, I have it here. That's great. And then I have this move uploaded file. Copy and paste it. The reason I'm actually doing this, guys, is because you don't need to retype the whole thing. I have tested this before with you, so we can just reuse it. This we don't need. Let's save it. Let's look at these 2 files that I have in there. I only have 2. Let's just do a mail. It doesn't really matter what we select there. It says that it has been, the ID must be a digit, 5. The user picture has been updated. And over here we have the 3rd file. If I do this one more time and one more time, I will get 2 more. You could delete these files. Maybe you should have done, or we should have done, a different structure where we prepend each of these files with a unique user ID, so it was easier just to identify the file and delete it. But in some new videos, I will show you how we can actually delete the corresponding file, or the file that is attached to the user. So for now, this is not optimal. If you have 100,000 different updates on the images, this pictures folder will be propped with files. So in a future video, I will show you how to do that. So subscribe. As soon as I do it, you will be notified about it. So that will be updating the images, or the image for the user. It responds with an status 1. And that will be it. Thank you guys for this video. In the next one, we get to the front end part, so we connect all the APIs to Svelte. How about if I show you what we have in Postman so far? Let me just save it. get user. It gets us a user if we pass an ID. ID equals, I know I have ID 5, so I will pass ID 5. We get the user 5. Get all the users. These are all the users we have in the system. Delete the user. I will in purpose delete user. Let's do 1 first of all. The user does not exist. Let's delete user 5. The user has been deleted. 5 was gone. It was previously there. So now we look at create a user. Yeah, let's create a user. So over here, we're going to pass the user ABC. It's going to be a mail. And for now, I will just call this now test. Max 5 characters, sure. I will just call it now 1. The user has been created. Let's check it in the database. Now 1 is working with the image, unique image name. Let's update the username. Let's remember this ID 13 that was creating a user. So now I'm going to update the user. User number 13, it was called now. Now this is going to be called, let's just do a yes. The username updated. Let's check the database. Pay attention to the now. Now it says yes. And I will update also his image. It ends with 35. So I'm going to go to this route. I'm going to point to number 13 and I'm just going to send. The user picture has been updated. 35 is still there. Browse. It changed to 2C. All right, guys. I think this does the job. I see you in the next video when we start connecting all these API to the front end. Thank you.